me.
So it has been a little bit since the last time I recorded one of these. But it is the 2005 Survivor Series, and it is a special night because it is the return of the Elimination Chamber, and the first time that I've tried to do an Elimination Chamber match, to my knowledge, in TEW. So I figured that it would be something worth sharing with y'all. Hence why... No, hence why I'm sharing it with y'all. So let's piece together Survivor Series, and let's see what happens with the main event. Booker already got his victory, so we're going to give one back to Ray.
I have like 200.
We chilling.
Jeffrey. I mean, the main point with the international title was supposed to be for people like Rob Conway to get a championship.
It's enough for like 1 fight.
You know, the guys that are not at the status to be Intercontinental Champion.
That's very fair.
Because I put the Intercontinental title on people that are, you know, far ahead of everyone else.
It's the best way in.
Of course. And also, of course, I would like to point out how Rob Conway has a title at Survivor Series, a title match at Survivor Series, but Shelton Benjamin doesn't. Ironic how that works. And usually with the SmackDown guys,
I'm lagging.
Yeah, server loads.
like usually on pay-per-view, on the interpromotional pay-per-views, I will give Ross and I'll give Ross and Lawler a break, and I'll give Taz and Michael Cole their matches, just to make it realistic, where you bounce back between the commentary teams.
Heal up. Yeah, I almost cracked the.
This is something that I want to try because I want to try and get Gregory Helms over. Because, I didn't just turn him. Like, I didn't just turn him and have him lose his return match, his first match with Gregory Helms. I didn't turn him just to break up the team for the sake of breaking up the team. I broke up the team for the sake of him competing against Jerry Lawler and getting over to give me another asset. And speaking of somebody getting over and giving me another asset, Mark Jindrak. Yeah.
Between two teams right now.
So.
Miles, you're by yourself. You're fighting that team by yourself.
I'm fine.
Between two, the top team sees us too.
I think the best way to do it would be this.
This is that I think he went to zone something.
That team is trying to fight us, right, dude?
And for this to push Lawler's feud, the Lawler feud, he needs to be down here.
No, they're pushing.
Or behind us too. Fuck. They're literally fucking camping.
And Jindrak encounter each other, realizing both have the chance to prove themselves against legends tonight. As both men do have the opportunity to prove themselves against legends tonight. But as I said, pretty much the match that I'm looking forward to is the Elimination Chamber, because I, for one, in all the years that I played TEW, don't think I've ever actually done an elimination.
Rezzing that crypto?
I don't think I've actually ever done an elimination chamber.
They're rezzing that crypto.
It's just one.
Rezzing Tamiko. I'm rezzing Tamiko.
I'm in a Phoenix.
I'm dead. He's right here.
You know,
He's right.
I don't know that I've ever actually done an elimination chamber match.
He's trying to throw some swamp.
Yeah, he keeps
Oh my
So he's got swamp.
done a team.
god.
GG's good. So,
Benoit for any advice ahead of his match tonight. And Benoit says,
I guess I'm probably with the hop on. It's getting late for me.
Yeah.
Alright, GG's guys. I enjoyed them.
Jeez.
As always.
basically the logic there is Benoit's telling him basically go out there, do what you can, but I'll be watching. To want something and believe you deserve it, but have it taken from you. See, JBL has been campaigning to become number one contender for the WWE Championship. And Vicky Guerrero was basically told her interim title will stay as interim, that she will stay as interim general manager as Coachman is ready to come back. So once Coachman comes back, she's out and Coachman's back in because Coachman was taken out a few weeks ago. Coachman was written out of TV a few weeks ago, and basically, with him coming back after Survivor Series, Vicky's gone. And Vicky doesn't see that as fair. So she is, basically campaigning on pay-per-view that it's not fair. And JBL and her may actually have more in common than you think. If you're missing it, Eddie was here, but Eddie got stolen by CMLL a few months ago. So now Vicky, Chavo, and Chavo's dad are all here. The original plan was Vicky, Chavo, and Eddie group together, form a group together, and take over SmackDown for the remainder of 2005. When Eddie left, the big plan to have Chavo become United States champion, Eddie become world champion, the duo become the tag team champions, and have them operate SmackDown, that all fell apart. My plan for 2005 fell apart, and I've been piecing it together piece by piece throughout the year, and it's kind of shown that within the world title division, specifically because of Eddie leaving. I mean, do I like it? No. Do I understand it? Oh, I tried to fight for him. I tried to keep him, but he turned it down. He turned it down. I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say, but all I know is that he turned it down, and that sucks. Because I lost my plan. I was fighting for him. I was fighting for Eddie, but Eddie turned it down. Speaking of Eddie and Chase had been feuding over the last couple of months. And basically, this feud has gone a lot better than Chase Stevens' last feud on Velocity with Nunzio, because reality of the situation is, I should have let the feud drag out a little bit more, but I didn't. And as you can see with the fact that this feud started back in August, and now we're in November, this feud has gone almost 3 months. So, and I got a pay-per-view match out of it. So, it's it's gone pretty well. It's gone pretty well. I do gotta say. And it's actually helped both Chase Stevens and Eddie Edwards, which is the most you can say for any feud. I am a wrestling god. And I demand an apology from you tonight, Haas. If not, one more chance on SmackDown. And of course, Haas denies him because JBL is floating into the wrestling god category. So that is building up to that, and it's also allowing me the opportunity to be able to turn Charlie Haas babyface, which is one of the reasons why he's starting a feud with JBL. Basically, JBL was embarrassed by Goldberg, or returning Goldberg. Haas was making a joke, was laughing at him. JBL took exception to that, and now JBL wants an apology. If you don't think you've earned respect, then you still don't know where you are. Because you have respect. Kevin Randleman, at one point, was, before losing the title to the Big Show, Kevin was the United States champion for almost a year. He reigned as the United States champion for almost over 200 plus days, successfully defending the championship more times than anyone since John Cena, and bringing stability that I didn't think I would find to the championship that he wasn't supposed to hold. He wasn't supposed to hold the title that long. The fact of the matter is, I was supposed to give the belt to Shelton Benjamin, but I chose to move Benjamin over to SmackDown instead of Raw. Over to Raw instead of keeping him on SmackDown. And basically, because of that, the guy that was supposed to beat him left the show, or left the brand. So who the heck am I going to have beat him? Fair point. Fair point. See, the main reason why I want to give this to Chavo, the main reason why I want to give the belt to Chavo is because Chavo did the job last year to help get over Abyss and prepare Abyss for his feud with The Undertaker and make it where maybe Abyss could win his feud because he was a little bit more popular. But the fact of the matter is, I was just doing it to try and get the ratings better for Abyss's feud with The Undertaker. And it just didn't, pan out. So basically, my point was, the point was that all I wanted to do was just get, that Chavo didn't have to put over Abyss. He offered me the ability to put over Abyss. He offered it to me to put over Abyss. And I more than accepted it. So I kind of want to give Chavo the opportunity to become United States champion as a make good or a thank you for him doing what he did. So I kind of don't want to just have him, I just don't want to feed him to Kevin Randleman. But also with the fact that Randleman just won the belt, I kind of don't want to have him lose the belt right away. You know what I mean? So maybe early next year could be something. I don't really know. But we'll see what happens. So, John Cena claims to Arnold and everyone he will leave world champion. Well, now I have a goal. Jericho and Cena have had unfinished business for months at this point. So I would say that if there's anybody that that Jericho wants to make sure loses, it is, of course, John Cena. And now, botched interference. I will, if I don't explain it now, I will explain it when we're going through it. If I don't explain it now, I'll explain it when I go through it. Because I'm trying to balance out the card and make it where it's worthwhile every step of the way. You know what I mean? Because there's a reason why there's buffer matches between certain matches, as one match brings the crowd up, the next match brings the crowd back down. One match brings the crowd up, the next match brings the crowd back down. It's supposed to be like a symphony type thing. If you win, you got it, Carlito. If Carlito can beat Chris Cage tonight on pay-per-view, then Carlito will get a title shot against Shelton Benjamin. Probably tomorrow night on Raw. Carlito lost his last rivalry to Darren Burridge because of Chris Cage, and that's what gave birth to this feud. So now Carlito's going to get an opportunity to redeem himself against Chris Cage on pay-per-view. If you win tonight, kid, then all you've done has been worth it. Because you earned my respect. Mike Mondo wants to step up. Mike Mondo wants to step up to Sting and defend and go against Sting in favor of the game Triple H. But that does not happen yet, as Victoria and Trish have to collide for the Women's Championship in one of the more highly anticipated matchups in the women's division, because Trish lost the belt back at SummerSlam, and Victoria has become, if you can see, Victoria's pretty much been most stable presence in the women's division since I started, because I didn't realize at the time. Then again, Lita did pretty solid back in 2004 with the belt. But I didn't realize at the time that basically the one division, or the two divisions, I should say, because the cruiserweight has been just as guilty in the cruiserweight division. But the two divisions that I've really not taken the best care of have been the cruiserweight and the women's title, says the guy who doesn't have a match for his Intercontinental Champion on pay-per-view. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. That's true. You're right. That's true. So maybe it's not the only maybe the women's and cruiserweight are not the only two divisions. You're right. You're right. Fair point. Fair point. But the feud is not over yet between Victoria and Trish. It's not ending tonight. Victoria beat Trish at SummerSlam for the Women's Championship and the finals of the Mae Young Classic, and took Trish out after the fact. Trish was out a month, and Victoria reigned supreme over the division until Trish returned, setting up this match between Trish and Victoria, and you gotta figure there is unfinished business between these two. Jason Rance is one of the guys that I'm trying to build up to a point. Giving him a match with giving him a match with HBK is more than enough. I know it might be questionable also why the Elimination Chamber is not the main event, but the reason why the Elimination Chamber is not the main event is because I don't know how well the Elimination Chamber is going to do, so I don't want to put the emphasis on the Chamber with it being the main event, or putting it in the category of it being the main event, because I don't know how well it's going to do. So I don't want to risk it and give the Chamber that much effort, because I don't know how well Chambers normally do. So I'd rather give it to a match that I know should do pretty well, and that's Batista and Kurt Angle. It's just now figuring out who I want to have be the champion coming out of the Elimination Chamber. And the honest truth is, I think Chris Jericho is the ideal person to put in the category of being world champion. I think that would be the case. Ironically enough, Cena and Jericho both have the same amount of losses throughout the year, but Cena's also been the champion. And Cena's actually had an amazing year, to be honest with you. Cena has actually had an amazing year. Benoit and Cena did amazing back at Insurrection. You know, Cena's put up with a lot from me. But his early reign is making me a little bit hesitant to give Cena the title, as his best match was with Raven. JBL wasn't the best. Actually, his best match was with Benoit, but was with Benoit. But how do you not have a good match when you're across the ring from Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio? So I think maybe Jericho will win the first Elimination Chamber in SmackDown history. Jericho will win the first Elimination Chamber in SmackDown history, to my knowledge. We fix the fluke. We fix the wrongful issues. And we move forward with me once again, world champion. The one thing I'm actually maybe a little bit worried about here is running out of time. The one thing I'm actually maybe a little bit worried about is running out of time. Vicky approaches Heyman about Vince's offer and if he's actually considering walking away. See, Vince a few weeks ago offered Heyman the opportunity to walk away, no questions asked, that he's been the GM for a very long time at this point, and that if he wanted to walk away, that Vince would not hold anything against him. If he wanted to do something else, Vince would not hold anything against him. It's the opportunity of a lifetime, because as Shane would go on to tell Paul, his father doesn't always give people the opportunity to walk away. He doesn't always give an opportunity to walk away. And I know what I said. What I said was that the SmackDown guys get the SmackDown matches, the Raw guys get the Raw matches. I'm going to correct that. With me being here. Sting, I will correct that before we pass through, but Sting basically goes on, challenges Triple H to a rematch, because the first time they met, Triple H had help in winning the match. It's just now it's a question of, will he have help the second time, or will it be where Triple H will actually, lose? So, the other thing is this. Batista, his title reign started up here. Cena's reign started mid-range. Cena's reign dropped. Batista's reign went up. Was I thinking about dropping the belt, having Batista drop the belt back to Angle? Yes. I was thinking about having Batista drop the belt to Angle, but because of how well Batista did with Paul London, I may or may not have reconsidered that. I may or may not have reconsidered the idea of having Batista drop the belt, and now I've left the opportunity for Batista to drop the belt open at that I've left Batista the opportunity to open the belt. I've left the opportunity open for Batista to drop the title for Batista to drop the title at Bad Blood. So I knew that was going to happen, and that's why I willingly passed Carlito and Cage to the pre-show, because I knew I was going to need to do that, and that's why I did. That's why pretty much that's the reason why I had the match on the show. It's because I knew I was going to have to possibly pass them off to the pre-show, and that I would only have the opportunity to have them on the card if things worked out, and clearly things didn't work out because I was not able to have them on the card, but it's okay. You know, it's okay. It's fine. It happens. But now I just got to throw some people on the pre-show. Like Lita. How did you bounce him up? How did you bounce him up so high? Jiminy Christmas. But that's what a main roster run is supposed to be for somebody when they get pulled up to the main roster. That's what it's supposed to be for somebody when they get pulled up to the main roster. America's Most Wanted is also one of the newest teams on the roster. And somebody I would like to build, and a team that I would like to build up, but I'm not going to keep adding to the pre-show because I also don't have... I have 26 minutes left on the pre-show, so I have time, but I don't want to keep adding to it. But I also can add to that match instead, because I also don't want to run out of time on the pre-show, because there's no point. At least in my opinion, there's no point. But the Dudley Boys open up the pre-show in a 6-man match just to get them on the card because I felt bad. Shelton Benjamin and Carlito do as well as I expected. And Benjamin shows why I gave him the Intercontinental Championship. Carlito gets his first pay-per-view victory and is showing upward momentum into another stratosphere. I do have an idea of who I want to have Carlito feud with next. It's another person that is down where those two are, and that person is, of course, Aaron Stevens. Lita gets a victory. Lita's not always featured, so featuring her is a good thing. See, the one thing I don't understand is, for the first time that I actually booked a match where a guy up here puts over a guy down below to bring the other guy up, Booker T doesn't gain any popularity. I don't understand. It's not even like I did it in England or something like that. I might have done it in Canada. Yeah, that might have... Maybe that's the reason? No, I did it at the last pay-per-view. I did it at No Mercy. I'm pretty sure I did it on pay-per-view at No Mercy, so I don't understand why Booker T did not gain any popularity. But if you are one of the people that play this game and understand it a little bit better than I do, feel free to let me know. Dawn Marie is Mark Jindrak's manager. Gregory Helms and Jindrak wish each other luck tonight in their respective matches. And of course, the guy who has been gone for a little bit of time, Jeff Hardy, gets the victory over Rob Conway and becomes the new International Television Champion, which the International Television title not long for WWE and will be gone within the next year, as the championship is a title that bounces between the brands and is supposed to be like an inter-branded title for the mid-card, and another title for the mid-card, but because I'm going to be bringing in NXT next year as a third brand, it is not long for WWE, as I'm going to be bringing back the idea of you're on this brand and only this brand, and that's it. You're on this brand and only this brand, and that's it. Simple as that. But Gregory Helms gets the victory over Jerry Lawler. Let's see how that affects Gregory Helms, because also Lawler is going to be pulled out of the ring sooner rather than later. Eddie and Benoit. Eddie Edwards is getting better on the mic, I gotta say. That his association with Benoit is actually helping. JBL and Vicky. Vicky is still a capable piece and an asset to the company, and that's why I kept her around. Jindrak gets the biggest win of his career against Ricky Steamboat, and Ricky Steamboat shows why I brought him back and took him out of retirement, or brought him back from retirement, because he is still able to work. He is still able to work. He worked a 9-minute match with Jindrak and got a 64 on pay-per-view. Props to you, Ricky Steamboat. Kevin Randleman hypes up his match with Chavo. You guys saw that. Eddie and Chase Stevens have a solid match. I actually got Eddie to promise me to put over Chase Stevens to hopefully, I thought, I did it as a just in case Eddie didn't want to put him over, I would, do that. But also I wanted to maybe limit how much popularity Eddie lost by putting over Chase Stevens, because part of the reason I did this feud is not just to bring up Eddie Edwards, it's also to elevate Chase Stevens, because basically this was Chase's last chance. In my opinion, this was Chase's last chance to get elevated and move up. Otherwise, he was either going to get released or put in a tag team. Speaking of getting elevated, Charlie Haas. His feud with JBL. And Charlie's going to turn babyface in the feud because, well, I need babyface as number one. And number two, I'm tired of him being a heel. Chavo hypes up his match with Kevin Randleman. Yeah, I figured that. I usually make the mistake. But also, I didn't even know these two had great chemistry, so maybe doing another match between these two would not be the worst thing, and blowing it off at Armageddon would not be the worst thing. Jericho. The other thing I would say is I would need them to have a positive feud. And by a positive feud, I mean, honestly, I don't know what I mean. But just pointing it out, this match did just as well as Ricky Steamboat versus Mark Jindrak. Just going to point that out there. Or put that out there. Mondo and Matt Hardy, the tag team champions on Raw, featured on the show. Not in a tag team match, but in a showcase match in itself. Honestly, I thought this match would do a little bit better, but still, women's title was featured. And still, it's in a prominent role, in a prominent position. They got another match coming, and I just need a little bit more time to get a little bit more feuds going for the women's division, because the one thing that I don't have in the women's division is depth. The one thing I don't have is depth, because you have Victoria, Trish, and Molly Holly and Lita here, and then everybody else well below them. Okay. I mean, for a feud that only had about a month build or a month and a half build, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. Solid match. Would have been better if I didn't include Luther Reigns, but what kind of bodyguard would he be if he wasn't in Angle's segment? I think that the match would have gotten better if Goldberg wasn't in it, and if I would have went with Rey Mysterio instead of Goldberg, then I probably would have gotten, I probably would have did better, but not a bad main event for SmackDown. I also totally forgot about giving SmackDown announcers to the SmackDown matches. So I will give SmackDown this segment. And also, can I do this just to stick with the storyline that I had coming into the pay-per-view? Just for the night, and I'll explain it when we go through the show. As expected. Saved it. Disappointing. Very disappointing, but I know it's because of the crowd being burnt out. Yeah, the crowd was burnt out. What I need to do is, I'm just realizing this now, that I need to either turn off burnout for the crowd, or what I need to do is put a match in there like the Sting versus Mondo match. It should have been projected to bring the crowd down and calm the crowd, or put a match in there to calm the crowd, to build them up back, to allow the main event to be able to build them back up. But either way, it was okay, because it was my mistake for not protecting the main event. Fair enough. It was my mistake for not protecting the main event. But either way, Paul London basically stepped up to protect Batista. Paul London basically stepped up to protect Batista after Flair was taken out by Tully Blanchard Enterprises. Paul London stepped up to protect Batista, and that is actually going to open the door for Paul London to have a feud with Kurt Angle. Because Kurt's going to blame Paul London for him not being world champion, that if he didn't get involved, then Kurt would have been world champion. But now this makes way for Bad Blood and Armageddon to end off the year, where maybe, just maybe, I will actually either limit the amount of pay-per-view matches on the show, number one, or number two, set up a match to allot for the Burnout, and either A, turn off Burnout, or B, if I want to keep it realistic, project the card before I make it. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane of how I would book WWE Survivor Series 2005. If you enjoyed it, let me know down in the comment section below. And if you have any advice on how to get better, for me to get better at booking and learn this game, because even after all this time and all these hours that I've spent in this game, I'm still not perfect at this game, as you guys can see. But either way, let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts on anything and everything that I can do to improve a little bit more in this game, and I will see you in the next video.